What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
Yes, Tuesday night, not just another night. It's a Dynasty Points night. Special night tonight. This is the first time Dynasty Points has had a guest with us that all of us are here for. We're breaking ground. We are changing the game once again. Dynasty Dave in the chat. He knows, he stays ready. Joining us tonight, one of our favorites, the man here to bless all of our favorite running backs. It's Graham Barfield, and we're happy you're here, Graham, because we love every time that you're here, and the people have been asking when you are coming back. So I am glad that we have managed to get you back here with us.
Listen, I've been pumped for this all day. I'm a man of the people. Got to give the people what they want. And yeah, this is an awesome group. Definitely better than last year when we were all kind of crapping on that class, and correctly so.
Yeah.
This year, going to be a much different conversation, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I can't wait. So this is what we have scheduled for everybody today. We have what is yards created. We're getting into the nitty gritty, what it means, what it's about, where it came from, what separates it from other running back statistics. We have the dynasty implications. Of course, this being a dynasty show, we want to look at how this is going to reflect dynasty and how we can use it. We have a Q&A with Graham. If you guys have questions for Mr. Barfield that you want answered about yards created or about why he dislikes himself so much that he roots for the Jaguars, whatever you need to do to get your question into Graham, you will have that opportunity. We'll get to as many as we can. And of course, we have a special 5 for 5 today. Okay, we have multiple parties playing in the game. Jacob Sanderson's playing for the first time ever in 5 for 5. He was the creator, the founder of 5 for 5. So he is playing for the first time. Lucas is forfeiting his opportunity at a point this week for the good of the people. Chat, you will still be involved. And of course, Graham stepping to the plate to play 5 for 5. Now, Graham, we do one thing on this program that not a lot of other podcasts seem to want to do, which is take a look at what the people are saying on a week-to-week basis about Dynasty Points. We take our favorite comments from both YouTube and podcasts, wherever you're listening, whether it's Spotify or Apple, and we review them in a segment we like to call the Dynasty Points Comment Review. Everything from hosted by a moron to you're just terrible. This week's did not disappoint. At the end of the episode, I had posted, who do you think will get flamed the most from this episode? My favorite reply from this was at Ferris G, who said Ryan, keeping in mind that Ryan wasn't even here last week.
Was he correct? I haven't listened to the show yet. I'm gonna have to. I might have to watch that one back and investigate.
No, it was a sound prediction though, and it made me legitimately belly laugh, so it had to get included. We have Jacob on Jacob hate at the moment. We have at J10KOB. The Baker take is the guy who loves to stare at charts while he's not in the playoffs. So Jacob, for you, they're coming for you.
It's very funny because I feel like my quarterback takes could not be more aggressively against analytics. I actively despise even the use of a single number when discussing quarterback play. So you
guys are literally talking to the Geno Smith and Trevor Lawrence truther here. Yeah, we're
I feel like all of my anytime that I ever talk about quarterbacks, I'm always stats are stupid and they only reflect the quarterback's environment outside of 8 guys. Turn on the tape. That's I feel like all I talk about the quarterback position. So it's very funny to be accused of being a chart looker outer, which is very true about I don't know, my life, but not probably the quarterback position.
Not quarterback.
So I've been owned correctly, but misapplied, in my opinion.
Which is why it had to make the list. Again, we want to be as transparent as possible. And of course, our boy John Atlas 3452, frequent watcher of the show, said Ryan was finally able to escape from his rum. The appropriately spelled RUM. That's right, proving that he is not locked in his room by his dresser. And of course, the honorable podcast mention C. Martin 1214, the man that was a legend for saying the next shirt should be "This podcast is hosted by a moron." Said legendary sign off. Deep dish pizza is ass. Not even a debate. So podcast was agreeing with me. More comments, by the way, Jacob, agreeing with me than agreeing with you and your Chicago deep dish soup that you said you like to consume. Lucas, somebody in the Discord did mention that the reason it probably takes you 6 to 8 hours to prepare is because you're making a casserole and not a pizza. Something to keep in mind if you want to save time for later.
You know, I find it very brave that people are willing to put in the comments something that's just absurdly wrong and try to stand by it. So good on them. They can actually try good pizza at some point in time. You know, we'll see.
Well, Lucas, a lot like your 5 for 5 gameplay. You're just wrong a lot, and in this case, it shows. That being said, Graham, we're going to ask you. You're a man of culture. You're a man that has experienced the many of things. Chicago-style deep dish pizza, yay or nay?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, it's lasagna. It's lasagna.
Thank you. Yeah, Graham gets it.
It's lasagna, man.
I think you all are just having bad deep dish pizza.
Jacob has been owned twice today.
No, I mean, I've been to New York City a few times. I've had actually good deep dish. I've been to Chicago a few times. I've had supposedly good deep dish. And you can only have one piece. The whole point of pizza is like slamming it, right? Like you want to be able to slam as many like pieces as you can. I don't know.
No, I disagree with that. Like look, maybe you smoke less weed than I do, and that's fair, and it's probably true. But like the amount of times that I have smoked too much, ate too much pizza, and then realized after, like I made a severe mistake. Like you can go really wrong with how fast it is to eat thin crust pizza. You can be open to serious deleterious effects. Deep dish is a protection mechanism against your worst instincts.
Has you running like you have a piano on your back, a la Mark Andrews, in no time?
Yeah, I mean you eat, but that's the thing. You eat one, maybe 2 slices of deep dish, and you feel like you need to take a 12-hour nap.
You feel like you're a house. Like
exactly.
I can't believe your argument in favor of deep dish is I'm a child and I can't control how much I eat. That's just very funny to me.
Look, I don't think children should do drugs, so I'm against that.
Okay.
As Nathan Fielder would say, I do drugs, and therefore I must not be a child.
Oh my God.
I do find it wild that nobody has brought up taste. This whole time we're talking about food. Nobody said whether or not it tastes good.
It tastes like a casserole, not a pizza. That's fine.
Deep dish does not taste good.
No,
you're not gonna. That's why Jacob's saying that he can't. Yeah, that's why Jacob's.
No. That's not what I'm saying, Ryan. You are misconstruing my words. I'm not saying I can't eat enough because it tastes bad. I'm saying I can't eat more because it's like a 12-story tall building. Like it takes like considerable amounts of time to just get through one slice. Anyway.
Would you consider just eating like a block of cement or something instead so that you would eat it slower?
No, I don't have pica.
I love that our comment section is going crazy. If you're listening to this in the audio
form, that's the Denny
head to
Carter-ism
YouTube.
right there, that you just haven't had a good axe.
Yeah, no. Yeah, Sean is right. Sean, you got the right take. Yeah.
You ordered it wrong or you had a bad one, then it's bad. I mean, hey, you're not wrong. Tyler says deep dish is good. Grow up. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. Okay, we are deep diving, if you would, into yards created when we come right back from a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Okay, Graham, we are going to bombard you with a bunch of questions because the guys have quite a few locked in and ready for you for this class, for last year's class, and what is to come. So I'll kick it to Jacob. We want to know first, basically, this is just what is yards created. Why is it different? Getting into the nitty gritty. So Jacob, kick us off. First question of the night.
Well, isn't that the first question of the night? What's yards created? Tell the people.
Yeah. For anybody that is new or hasn't, read, listened to anything for yards created, it's basically a charting process I started 9 years ago where I just felt like yards after contact just does not do a good enough job at painting the right picture of running back. Like it can definitely tell you a good picture, but it doesn't tell you a full picture in the sense of like, I know other charting sites are charting, contact yards basically is like anytime a running back gets barely touched behind the line of scrimmage or gets touched by a defensive lineman. And I just don't think that's right. Like if a defender has no chance of actually bringing down a ball carrier, but you're giving them yards after contact just for basically getting through that first line of contact, I just don't think that paints a full picture. So yards created is essentially everything that the running back earns after what has been blocked. And in college football, as we've all seen the last couple of years, blocking is really, really bad. And this kind of isolates basically the running backs that create on their own above average. I also chart missed tackles forced a little bit differently. I chart it by speed. So if a running back is, just blowing past a cornerback on the outside, just destroying an angle, that's by speed. By power is pretty straightforward. You're just running through defenders, running through a face, whatever. And then elusiveness is also pretty straightforward. It's just juking somebody out of their shoes. So the best way to describe it is basically like what happens in the second level. But as we all know in college football, there's plenty of plays where, interior run blocking is bad, exterior run blocking is bad. And, running backs have to make people miss behind the line of scrimmage. This is basically going to be the Bhayshul Tuten show because that was his entire game.
All right. So you already talked about how it sort of differs from other running back metrics. Talked about Bhayshul Tuten, we're going to get back to later. Who are some running backs in today's NFL that you would suspect are maybe underrated by other common running back events metrics like yards after contact, missed tackles forced, RYOE, whatever, that your yards created system, and I know that you use it as primarily a college prospecting, but the methodology of yards created, who would you suspect are some backs that are you think underrated by other metrics that you would bet yards created captures more favorably?
I mean, there's quite a few. Off the top of my head, Jonathan Taylor last year, obviously the Colts offensive line was still very, very good, but he popped in yards before contact. And I think that's simply because he just has like incredible vision and is pretty much always in the right spot. Devon Achane, I didn't chart the 2023 class because I lost all 22 access that year, but Achane, I mean, we went from like best possible scheme to like really, really poor interior run blocking last year. Man, I was thinking about somebody else the other day too. Maybe he'll come back to me, but I think JT and Achane, like last year I was looking at their metrics, that we chart here at Fantasy Points, and JT was not as elusive as he was last year, but the yards before contact was still very good. And I think about this all the time. Like, it's kind of hard to adjust yards before contact, right? But like, there are certain players that are getting significantly more yards before contact simply because they're more elusive, like JT, correctly picking the right hole all the time, like Achane just being, really elusive behind the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there's a better way to do it. It's just one of those things with yards created. Like I don't have the bandwidth to chart every single NFL running back. It's relatively easier to pick the top 12, top 15 running backs and just lock myself in an office for 4 weeks and chart every play.
Yeah. Since we're kind of making you talk about like current NFL players right now, I think it's a natural pivot to ask you about Ken Walker. He was obviously back in the day kind of one of the earlier like yards created standouts as he was coming into the league. So I'm curious kind of how you weigh like your initial college yards created evaluation with players as they have more time in the league. And also obviously just what you're seeing with your eyes based on how you think they would chart out if you were to sit and like chart Ken Walker's 2024, for example.
I'm of the mind that if you're immediately good in the NFL, like you're immediately good. It's not like I'm tossing out yards created, but it's one of those things where, I mean, I've missed on plenty of players. I've done this for 9 years, and yards created hasn't, illuminated certain guys at the bottom end that have popped, like Kyron Williams, for example. We can still maybe debate whether or not Kyron Williams is good, but he's good in what Sean McVay asks him to do. But as it pertains to Ken Walker, like, I mean, he's still the most elusive running back in the NFL, right? Like, by missed tackles forced over the last 3 years, he's been either number one, number two. With yards created, I've noticed, and I should go back and look at this because I haven't done this in a few years, but having this conversation just kind of reminded me, like, I've noticed that our missed tackle forced data at Fantasy Points like correlates really well with yards created, just like anecdotally. Which I think is makes a ton of sense. Like Bucky Irving last year was, among the most elusive running backs in the league. He had, he forced a missed tackle on like just over a quarter of his carries. And while he didn't really like pop for yards created, I remember coming onto the show last year and being like, nah, I'm keeping the light on for Irving because he's super elusive. And I think players that are elusive in college, I've found to be like, that's the stickiest thing. Like, yards created is predictive, and it's more predictive than counting stats. It's more predictive than athletic testing measures. But I think missed tackles is like one of the stickiest things. At least this is just anecdotally. I should go back and test this because I've got a pretty good sample size now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I often sometimes I think that in certain cases the missed tackles for stuff can get overrated because sometimes people equate missed tackles for just with good running back, and you'll get cases of guys who, Zach Moss is always an example that pops up in my mind of a guy who like forced a ton of missed tackles, but then often forced a missed tackle and then gets tackled a yard later. And it's like, well, this was really great. Najee Harris has often done a lot better in missed tackles forced than he does in most other metrics, or just, sort of what your lion eyes are telling you. But I definitely agree that it's one of the stickier things that I've observed, where if you are able to consistently force missed tackles, you will probably still be able to consistently force missed tackles. And especially when you combine that with other exciting elements, really, really good stuff. All right. We have some more questions here. Ryan's going rogue, I think, a little bit with some of these. I want to talk about one guy. Last year, I think you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when we had you on last year, your RB1 and yards created was Trey Benson. And I'm curious because I also was a fan of Trey Benson's going in, at least relative to a weak 2024 class. How do you view him in year two? Do you have some hopes that he can assume a larger role and still potentially be the long-term RB1 for the Cardinals? Or after not playing much in year one, do you consider him more likely cooked?
So Benson was my RB1 just by rankings, but in terms of yards created, he was sixth best, I think, in the class. And that just speaks to how crummy last year's class was. It was Lloyd, Wright, Jonathan Brooks, and our boy Tyrone Tracy as the top four. Benson and Estime basically had like the same score. Just anecdotally, like watching Benson, like the processing was so bad to start last season, like in the preseason, especially, just like Arizona is a very man-heavy blocking scheme, right? And James Conner just shredded behind it. I mean, he's just, was absolutely awesome. I'm still leaving the light on for Benson. He was one of those players that was pretty elusive in terms of missed tackles forced. He was, tied for third best in that class. But Connor is just like, I mean, it's like death taxes and James Conner being a solid RB2. I think we're going to see more of the same this year. It's probably going to be more of a split, Jacob. I'm curious for your thoughts because, Connor was awesome last season. Still have the burst, still have the truck.
Oh yeah, he rules. He absolutely rules.
He's
He gets
awesome.
better. I mean, I think he's been so much more impressive in Arizona than he was in Pittsburgh. Like he legitimately seems like he gets better every year. It's crazy. I can't think of any other running back like this who not only stayed good late, or even a guy like Mostert who broke out late, but like a guy who it seems like legitimately just improves year over year into his age 30 season. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's a perfect scheme for him. I mean, Drew Petzig is not a good passing game coordinator, but his run game stuff was awesome last season. Like they don't have like hog mollies in the sense that like maybe the Colts do or the Chargers kind of do now, but they were doing some really, really good stuff last year. And I just think it took Benson some time to kind of get going. I'm willing to kind of give him a bit of a pass. I think he's a pretty interesting buy low in Dynasty right now. For redraft, I think he's strictly just like a handcuff because Connor's still got it, and I think for one more year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think Benson will play more this year than last, and I'm excited. Not excited for a potential James Conner injury, but if he were to be injured, I would be excited to see how Benson would handle a feature role. But yeah, we'll see.
I would be interested if Trey Benson got the passing down work. Like when he did get it was DeMarcado. Sure. That's what I mean. So like when I know the expectation if Conner gets hurt, you know what Twitter is going to do. You know what the Dynasty community is going to do. Trey Benson, workhorse, every down type thing.
I mean, I think he'd be a workhorse in the sense that James Conner is currently a workhorse. James Conner doesn't play third downs either. Or like Joe Mixon doesn't play third downs. Like I think Benson could be a workhorse in the sense of he plays like every early down and gets a decent chunk of receptions as an early down player.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
But like I don't foresee Trey Benson being like a third down specialist. He didn't project that way.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like even if there is a Conner injury, there's going to be some level of capping his what will be a hysteria of hype the minute he gets the opportunity to quote feature. So I'm gonna be interested to see if he develops in that regard at least. Like you said, Conner is not exactly one to play third down, but I mean the man just catches every dump off, has design screens, is a part of their passing game anyway. It'd be interesting to see if in year 2 Benson is at all in those plans. He didn't exactly he had one game with 2 catches. Like he wasn't exactly incorporated in that at all. So I'd be interested to see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, in college, I thought he was like a capable pass catcher in the sense that, like his hands work, and he's really fun in the open field. So like you can throw him screens, you can throw him swing passes, but like he wasn't like evolved as a pass protector to me. He wasn't a guy that was running angle routes or anything like that, and they didn't use him that way. So
he was a really good athlete, and I mean he was really good in Florida State's like they did a bunch of like pin pull stuff with him, a bunch of gap, and he was really good, and that's why I was like, man, this is a great spot because that's what the Cardinals do, right? But yeah, the processing was just really slow last year with Benson. It got marginally better as the season went on. That's going to be something I'm watching during the preseason. It's just like Benson's play speed.
Yeah, it's just more of a word of caution. Like if that opportunity does arise, I don't think it's an absolute smash league winning situation. Like maybe I would have been more hyped for last year. Lucas, you have a question here. Let's get that in.
Yeah, I think it's also a perfect segue. So whenever you're charting yards created, are you factoring in, the scheme of the teams in college? Like, how does that kind of work itself in? I know a lot of times, especially like last year with Jalen Wright, this was a big topic about the scheme that Tennessee runs. And incredibly explosive guy. We never really got to see if he had any vision. I know a lot of people then said that he has no vision. He hasn't shown it in the NFL, but how does the team's scheme kind of factor in to yards created? Do you like have separate rankings for that?
I've gone back and forth in this, like in my head and talking to a few people just about charting in general, and I don't adjust for anything. I think it's one of those things in college, man, where the game is just so different in general. The hashes obviously are, it's much wider. The NFL game, you've got the narrow hashes. We've also seen just, honestly, a lot of these teams, man, it's high school-ish offenses. The quarterbacks are not really asked to do a whole lot. As it pertains to like Tennessee, like I always try to just have this context in my articles. Like I wrote this last year with Wright. I wrote this year with Dylan Sampson. It's like, this offense was a Mickey Mouse offense. You do the weird, stacked receiver stuff. They do the weird, kind of try to space out the defense stuff. And it does make certain players look a little bit better when there are just like 5 or 6 defenders in the box. But then Jalen Wright was so much better than Dylan Sampson, like so much more elusive. Yeah, he had some processing issues, but like when he did string moves together and pick the right hole, like he was awesome. Like when he got that green space. And last year in Miami, I mean, not even Devon Achane was getting that green space. So I don't really think we got a full picture of Jalen Wright. We should this year, though. I mean, obviously no Mostert, no Jeff Wilson. I'm just slamming Devon Achane, though. I mean, he's incredible.
Nice.
But yeah, no. To answer your question, I mean, I don't know. Curious for you guys' thoughts, because like I don't. Like I said, the college game is just so much different than the pro game. Like, should I be adjusting for defense? Like, I don't really think I should be, because most of these defenders stuck at tackling anyway. Like 9 out of 11 of these guys are going to be accountants. They're going to be working at, a TD block or whatever. It's like, I don't know.
Oh no.
I really
and against the
I always think, I mean, my view on all this stuff is when people try to do adjustments for level of competition, scheme, any of that stuff, I think it's like all comes from a good place. At the end of the day, to me, the ultimate adjustment is draft capital. And I think that for the most part, like I just think that if your goal is to design a metric that in and of itself is as predictable as possible, then yeah, you probably want to look at adjustments and stuff like that. But if you're just looking at making it as actionable as possible, I always think you're looking at it as I'm adding one really important ingredient to the recipe.
Yeah.
And everything requires add draft capital and stir. So to me, like you're kind of double counting certain things if you're getting out ahead to try and say, well, this guy actually isn't as good as it seems, because most of the players that look really fancy in certain metrics that aren't actually good, the NFL will tell you by not drafting or drafting in round 6 or whatever else, and they'll make the exceptions for the ones that are worth making exceptions for.
John Atlas says, I'm an accountant, but I'd hit stick anyone talking smack. Don't sleep on us.
Hey, listen, I probably would be an accountant if I weren't doing this too, man. I'm not hating on accountants by any means, but I think that's what when I've talked to Scott about this and I've talked to Brett about this, they've both said kind of the same thing. It feels like double counting. It's like this is already pretty predictive, and I think the fewer inputs, maybe the better. Sometimes it's almost like a case of just keeping it simple. You know what I mean? And not really trying to overanalyze it in a sense. The other flip side of this is like, Jaden Blue like only had like over a couple hundred, just over 100 carries. It's very rare, like in today's college game, like there's a lot of rotation. So unless you have a situation where it's like Ashton Jainty or another, volume back where you have a very large sample of carries, I feel like, the more adjustments you're making, it feels like it's trying to make a model that's already pretty predictive, like maybe too granular. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I fully agree. Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
Well, I was going to say, like, whenever I was thinking about the different schemes, sure, teams run different schemes, but players perform differently in some of these schemes. If we're looking at Caleb Johnson, I think he's a really good example of moving from inside to outside zone type scheme. He was way better in the outside zone scheme. So how does like that kind of factor into the yards created, or is it just already built in?
So Caleb Johnson might be the perfect example because yards blocked is in part scheme. Like Iowa, I would obviously they've got a great offensive line. They definitely had the best offensive line of all of the backs I charted this year. I don't even think it was really close. But also they just did a really great job of like using motion to deceive the defense. They just were really, really good at like getting receivers involved to kind of confuse and manipulate second level defenders. And that yards block picks up on that. Like if you're just constantly running through huge holes like Caleb Johnson was, like no offense to Caleb Johnson, this is just a fact. Like he was running through massive holes. It already kind of picks up on that. So it's not an adjustment for level of competition for sure, but it does certainly pick up on scheme and blocking just by capturing that number.
Love it.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I love
it.
All
right, I got one more. Oh, sorry, Tom.
I was just gonna say, like, there's a reason why when people ask me film questions, I immediately either run to Graham, run to Brett, and/or anybody else who is way smarter than me at doing this. Because, look, man, there's no shame. Like, obviously, we're content creators. We play Dynasty nonstop. It's okay to admit when you don't know what you don't know. It's actually better to admit when you don't know what you don't know. That's what makes these conversations matter more. It's more important. We can sit here in line and be like, oh, yeah, of course, I knew all that, Graham. Like, great job. But no, it's really important to be honest with yourself. So it is important. Jacob, last question, then we move on.
Yeah. All right, last one from me. Then I'm handing over to Heath and Lucas. All right. Two guys. We've already talked about one of them. But I remember from the tweet that you put out a while ago that the world all got to see, Harvey, Bhayshul Tuten, two guys that were doing well in a lot of the advanced metrics, but in particular in yards created, two guys that I think we as a program, we as a Fantasy Points site are quite ahead of the market on. Can you give us some expectations? What do you expect the role to be for each of these guys in year one? And are you into both, neither, or one more so at cost in Dynasty format?
So Tuten was someone that I wanted like on all of my teams, but he's been steamed now to the second round, and I just think that's right. Like I wrote this in my article. Like I'd be
coming down in best ball though. Like he was ahead of ETN, and now he's like 2 full rounds behind. So it's you're getting a bit of a discount there.
Yeah, he'll be one of my most drafted running backs, maybe my most drafted running back in best ball. In Dynasty, I have a few teams that are just like ass at running back, and I've just gotten aggressive. Like
nice.
Do I really want Trey Harris, or do I want to shoot for the moon with this guy? Harvey, I was slamming him at like 108, 109, and I still am. I don't care. The J.K. Dobbins thing like doesn't move the needle for me. The dude got $2 million guaranteed. That's the same as Rico Dowdle and Nick Chubb. The Broncos had 134 team running back receptions 2 years ago. They just had like over 90 last year. Javonte Williams was RB7 by target share. Do we really think J.K. Dobbins, who is like, less than 10 career receiving?
I don't think Javonte Williams could beat Hunter Lupke in a 40 right now if they tested
it. Dude, oh my, that knee injury just robbed him, man. He was so freaking good at coming out. He was so good, and he's just dust now. But yeah, like if they were funneling 70 targets to Javonte last year, like that's, in my opinion, like that's not J.K. Dobbins' game. Maybe to start the season, we'll see Dobbins play on some third downs just because Harvey is not a good pass protector. But I'm very bullish on Harvey. Like I said, I'd be willing to take him as early as like 107, 108. And then for redraft, awesome. I think he's going to get cheaper. I think we'll see him slide to like Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, somewhere in that range, like 65, 70. But Dynasty specifically, like I just think he's an awesome pick in the back half of the first.
Yeah, I mean, glad that we brought you on the show to just like be the devil on my shoulder telling me to take more. So this couldn't be more of what I want to hear, that's for sure.
Cannot be more excited for how many comments about ETN and Bigsby both somehow being the super RB1 elites in this Cohen offense. Want to hear something kind of incredible? The way you were talking about someone like Tuten and where you're willing to take him, Graham, in rookie drafts. I went to Dynasty Data Lab, our good friends over there, and looked at rookie ADP from May 1st to now. Tuten's RB8 going a pick after Milroe by ADP, which now I have not seen at all. But we're talking about after, like you said, Trey Harris, Scatabo has moved up to the 204.
That's wild.
And 5 picks later, here comes Tuten. So we're obviously, like Jacob mentioned, as an entire site, we're way higher on Tuten. Now, you talked quite a bit about RJ Harvey. I mean, at this point, I like to play a game, if you would. I'm going to list off the players that go ahead of Tuten, and I want to know where the line is for you, where it would stop.
Tuten line.
Okay. We are establishing the Tuten line. Okay, so we have Tuten here. Before that, Milroe.
Oh, come on.
I gotta ask. That's the point of the game.
No, it's Tuten. You gotta ask, but it's Tuten. Yeah.
It is. So we have Jack Besh.
I mean, definitely Tuten. Besh is apparently running behind Dante Thornton and
for
the other guy they drafted.
Mirroring skill sets with Myers. It's not great. That's not what you want to hear. We have Trey Harris going at wide receiver 7.
Yeah, at Tuten all day.
Jaden Higgins, who I don't even think should be before Harris, but I digress.
Yeah, I do like Higgins and Dynasty.
He's gotten great pub.
Okay, that explains that. But are we going Tuten or Higgins?
I'm going Tuten.
Okay, obviously Cam Scatabo.
Yeah, the Scatabo thing makes no. I mean, they went back to back. Like,
I know. I blame Scott. Scott's driving this train all the way up to 204. We know he is. He's in cahoots. We have Luther Burden.
I just trust Brett so much with receiver evaluations, and he's so convinced that a player like Burden just is a very low probability of working out.
Okay.
I typically like. I think in today's running back market, where there's like, Tom, you and I've talked about this. There's like 4 guys that feel comfortable at running back, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Like if you squint, and then you're just like, I don't know what to do from RB6 to RB30. So it's like, if Burden's upside case is like a pretty good wide receiver 2, while he's playing with DJ Moore and Colston Loveland and Roma Dunze, like I'm shooting for the moon with Tuten.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna go Tuten over Burden, and then you get Golden.
Yeah, that's where I draw the line. I think I'd take Golden.
Okay, and then after that is Dart. So we're looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking at a 6-spot bargain that ADP says you could go and get. So there's enough detractors that are still pushing his costs down. Like there's still an opportunity to buy right now if you want into the ground floor.
Yeah, I mean, we see this all the time with ambiguous backfields, right? But like, this is so clear to me. Like James Gladstone, a part of his interview process was pointing out he wanted to draft Tuten. Like he said that like, I brought this guy up as like he's going to be our day 3, like late day 2, early day 3 guy. There's been reporting from multiple national media, people that are very plugged in, that says the team hates Travis Etienne. I mean, Tank Bigsby was way better than Etienne last year. Like,
and was still ass.
Yeah, and he's still like, yeah, exactly. He's still a Jag. So I just see this as like, by mid-season, I think we're going to be seeing Tuten as like the 1A.
Yeah, I agree. John Johnson says the moment Tuten takes a 50-yard carry to the house, this conversation goes out the window. It doesn't. The conversation is establishing that there's a cost to acquire now. If you think this is the case and you're on the outside looking in, there is still a way to use the conversations happening around ETN. Trust me, I had to mute many different tweets about ETN and Bigsby over the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about it on the show. We've seen the comments on YouTube, the egregious DMs that really started the whole comment review section was based upon a lot of these ETN and Bigsby conversations on the interwebs. They're important to have in that regard. With that being said, we have dynasty implications coming up. You're not going to want to miss that. We have more questions for Graham as we put them through the ringer here on this edition of Dynasty Points. You're not going to want to miss it. Here we go with the dynasty implication. Ryan, I'll kick it to you first. First question for Graham for the dynasty implications of yards created and how we use it.
Yeah, so this could be a dynasty implication on yards created or just kind of in general. But Graham, you recently sent a tweet that was basically saying we're going to be wrong most of the time in fantasy, in betting, in what we do. And therefore, we should be instead trying to maximize the payoff when we're correct. And I was excited to see you tweet about this because I've talked to Scott about this for a lot, but I've never picked your brain on this specific topic. So it seemed like good timing. But yeah, just kind of want to know, what does that look like for you in practice with your dynasty teams? Does it mean you're just really making sure you're getting all your guys, or just kind of take off running with that idea?
In fantasy, like, there are only a handful of players that matter every year. That's the bottom line. I mean, either through attrition or just, a position completely failing, like we've seen at times, like tight end basically every year. I mean, there's just guys that just they can help you win a couple weeks here and there, but there's just very few players that offer asymmetric upside. And in my opinion, and this is just a risk tolerance thing, I'm way more willing to go all in on players if I feel very strongly about not just how they profile, but price. I mean, we play an opportunity cost based game, and that's why this game will never be solved, right? In my tweet is basically accepting that even in your best year, you're going to be wrong 40% of the time. And I would much rather be an Adam Dunn style hitter where
nice.
Yes, Adam Dunn reference.
Bro, yeah, you have
he has great Adam Dunn versus Juan Pierre discussion.
Yes.
He has how many 40 home run seasons, and he's like a strikeout king, but who cares about how many strikeouts that you have when you're consistently hitting dingers? Yeah,
shout out Mark Reynolds as well. Perfectly good use of this analogy.
Yeah, and that's the way I play fantasy is I don't really care if I have some strikeouts. I know I'm going to have strikeouts. I'm going to be wrong a lot, but I want to be able to maximize my payoffs when I'm right. And last year was a pretty good example of just some plain running bad. I'm always aware of I want to be right for the right reasons, and I'm okay being wrong for the right reasons. Injuries happen, they're a part of the game, and it's just a huge part of the game. Travis Etienne is actually probably a pretty good example of this. I went back and watched, honestly, last year, dude, he was not bad to start the season, looked like himself.
Fair.
Then he got hurt. He had a shoulder injury, then he popped a hammy, and that was kind of it. He just had no juice for the rest of the season. But
well, he's one of the.
Do you think it's fair that this is
backs.
just kind of this is 3 years now, basically, in a row of him? I mean, I would say the beginning of each year has been kind of the same, just a less impressive version. But start of 2022 and start of 2023, he looked like one of the best running backs in the league. Yep. I wouldn't go that far about the start of 2024, but he certainly looked like a starting running back in the league. And 3 years in a row, his efficiency is like massively tailed off towards the end of the year, to the point that like I just wonder if, he might have like a good pain tolerance in the sense that he toughs it out and plays through a lot of injuries, and that's commendable. But his ability to either avoid injuries or to be effective through injuries at this point, I've seen a big enough sample, and I'm extremely skeptical of that he can maintain through a full season and be the same guy as a starter volume for 17 games. I just don't buy it.
And I don't know how to quantify this, but I feel like it is a skill. Like Derrick Henry is probably the flip side of this, is like the dude is just never hurt, or maybe he's hurt more often than we think, and he just like he's just a cyborg. It doesn't really matter. ETN is like the flip side, because you're right. Like at the end of 23, like he looked awesome, and then at the end of 23 started to tail off. There's just players that just don't play well through injury. They're, for whatever reason, like be it just if they're not 100 or 90%, maybe their bodies are just they can't get the right feel. I also think that there's a mental side to playing through injury, right? Like if you're not fully trusting your body, you might play a little slower in terms of your processing. And if you lose half a step in the NFL, like you're done, dude. Like these guys are so fast and so strong.
It's why people are like, oh yeah, the average person, if you give them, 10 carries, how many yards? Negative 25 is how many yards you're going to get. If you give me 10 carries in the NFL, both of my knees are blowing out at the same time, and I'm losing 5 yards and getting 1 carry. Like it's not in the NFL. Super athletes, like you said, are off by half a step. You're not gonna perform. Not to mention the types of injuries for Etienne. Shoulder is really rough to play through. We're talking ankles, the foot, obviously, way back rookie year. It's just a lot. It is a lot of specific injuries that really limit your ability to make your moves, and being softer than baby shit in terms of playing through injury, in terms of how other, like you mentioned, other NFLers do it. Also, not great. So you're right. That is definitely a skill. I just want to point out that Adam Dunn did club 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 40 home run seasons in a row. Had another one with 41 and missed 2 of them back to back with hitting only 38 with the Washington Nationals. So our GOAT, Adam Dunn, king of the strikeout. I mean, talking 222 strikeouts in a season.
Strive to be Adam Dunn, not Luis Arise. That's
the
goal.
There you go. Don't win batting titles. Crush home runs. That's right. All right, next question. Who's got it? Jacob, you're up.
I did like 3, and now I'm already back up.
Well, Ryan was slow, so he's
go for it.
I thought I was retired for the night. All right,
you can go for it.
Well, now I don't even know which one to pick. Are we doing the Age Cliff one?
Put him on the spot.
Sure.
All right. We've seen running backs past the age cliff have a lot of recent success. And I'm curious, this is less of a yards created question, but do you think this is just going to keep continuing? Do you think it's a coincidence? And how would you approach the likes of Barkley, Henry, Jacobs, Kamara, et cetera, going into this season and beyond?
No, I don't think this will be the norm. However, the run game is back. We are just seeing, dude. It's like a twofold, well, maybe even a threefold thing. No, first of all, no. I mean, the position just ran so hot last year. Running back is always like an attrition based, position, and we just had like all of these. I mean, Barkley, I called him Superman coming out of college. I mean, the dude is like he's one of the best running backs of all time. I don't think the age cliff is coming for Barkley yet. It's coming for Henry. But Henry is super interesting because he's got this cheat code in the backfield with him. Lamar Jackson, his orbit, it's one of these things where like Henry is still a freak, still was like 7th or 8th best by missed tackle force last year, still had the long speed, but he has this out in Lamar Jackson that like, no one else does. I mean, Lamar just changes the way defenses play. You just have to be so aware of him. Not only like, he's a great runner, but he's just become such a dynamic passer His play action stuff last year was just, I mean, he was just shredding, absolutely shredding people. Mm-hmm. And it's one of these rare cases where, like, I hate to say it, but like Tua is just so limited. Like I said I was slamming Devon Achim, and I am, but I'm also I'm also aware that, like, you know, Miami faces so much too high coverage because, yeah, you want to keep Tyreek and Waddle in front of them, but it's also like, especially last season, defenses were perfectly fine playing a bunch of too high against them because their offensive line was so bad. So if you have a non-mobile quarterback who's not a threat on the edge with design stuff, not a threat off read option, you have to have this extra layer, and Lamar Jackson is like the freakiest layer of that in the NFL. So, I mean, look at it this way. I mean, we had Barkley, Henry, Bijan, Jacobs, Kamara. I mean, Kamara is really the only one who kind of fell off and got hurt at the end of last year. I'm just a lot more willing to say, hey, like, specifically with Henry and Barkley, like Barkley's got this offensive, you know, great offensive line, and Hurts is good off design stuff, but he's not great. He's still a factor. Like you have to account for him. It's just a team specific thing. Like Kamara, I'm pretty much I'm fading this year. Like the Saints are going to stink.
I don't want to hear that.
Dude, I know he's going to be an.
I don't even want to hear that because we just accidentally auto picked him in a main event draft.
Yeah, he's tricky, man, because like we know the age cliff is coming for him. We've seen the efficiency drop off, specifically with the missed tackles force. Like he was still a missed tackle force god, like in his prime. That's really fallen off. Like you're really just banking on volume with him, and then it's like, man, the Saints like have this terrible quarterback room. Where it's like with Derrick Henry, like obviously he's getting, you know, he's still a second round pick. Saquon, you know, is the consensus RB1. I think maybe the only case I have against Barkley is that he just had like 450 touches, and running backs that get that many touches year over year, like they typically fall off. But it's just like with Barkley and Henry specifically, they just have these quarterbacks and these schemes. Like the Ravens have a great offensive line too that really kind of insulate the downside of their age.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we've fielded questions countless times where it's down on running backs in drafts. Like, look what we just saw. Just because he's 27, we're talking about the 1% of running backs. It just so happened that like the elite of the elite running backs just happen to be the age cliff guys that took off in perfect scenarios. It's not saying like, Mixon can't, you know, be the Mixon's not going to be the RB. He's not these guys. Like it was perfect storm, perfect scenario, and the perfect players that stayed healthy.
Bro, Mixon's already hurt.
Get like that.
Well, I can't. This is the whole separate conversation. But I had to like dig this up during OTAs. Mixon was in a freaking walking boot. He has a foot ankle injury. This is a guy who has a history of ankle injuries. I think I went back and looked. He has like 5 or 6 ankle injuries throughout his career, and there was no reporting on it. So it's like Mixon might already be over.
And then they signed Nick Chubb,
who's
while
also,
all this is happening after trading a future third for Lee Marks. So they've invested a lot in shoring up their running back depth this offseason.
So
while Mixon's not practicing.
It's the same thing with like guys like Josh Jacobs, who had a stellar year, and look what had to happen for that. The injury happened. I know, Ryan, you were tweeting about the splits with that. The injury with Love then it just became insanely run heavy. That was a perfect run out scenario for Jacobs. The veteran backs just also happened to be linked to perfect scenarios, the perfect teams, and staying healthy really is what it feels like to me. And they were already, you know, the best of the business. So,
well, I mean, with Jacobs specifically, I've talked to Ryan about this on Best Ball Breakdown, and he made a really good case for Love. And I was basically saying, like, okay, yeah, they're going to be more pass heavy this year, but like that's probably a good thing for Josh Jacobs. Like more touchdown opportunities is a good thing for him. His only competition is Marshawn Lloyd, who while I liked a lot for yards created, like I'm still like calling a spade a spade. The dude has never been able to handle volume at any point in his career. Even going back to college, I don't think he had I think he had one game with more than like 15 carries, maybe not even. And then obviously everything happened with him last year where he just like fell apart. Every body part broke on him. So it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, we had this like really bad rookie class last year where teams were correctly not investing much capital in the position. And then Saquon, Henry, Jacobs just have these like nut runouts on really good offenses. And Jacobs specifically and Barkley specifically, I mean, they're still, Ryan knows it. I mean, they're still right in the prime age range. It's just really a question of like, can they maintain the insane workloads? That's up for debate. That is up for debate because we've seen it every time. It's like almost every time a running back gets that many touches, like not only can they not sustain that year over year, like they often get hurt, but it's hard to predict injuries, man. I mean, it is, and they just have these. It's still a nut run out. Barkley still has the perfect run out. Jacob still has the perfect run out.
That's why I say for running backs, it's not about running backs being injury prone. There are running backs who will eventually get injured. So it's just how it is. Everyone's injury prone till they're not. Like, they're just the common phrases that we use on this program seemingly every time we talk about them. Ryan, you have some more questions here ready to go. Fire one up.
Yeah, just kind of really general question for you, Graham. What do you think is like the biggest mistake that you usually see people making, specifically like with running back evaluations in Dynasty or in real life?
In Dynasty, I think it's just overvaluing total production profile. Cam Scadaboo is probably the best example of this. Like, yeah, he was a workhorse in college. He got all those design screens and stuff, but like his efficiency metrics are really bad. I mean, by yards created, he's like a bottom 20th percentile prospect. I just like, I almost think, and I kind of touched on this earlier, like I don't really even care about total college production. Like if you're good enough to be like the 1A on your team, you're probably already okay. These teams, just unless you have a cyborg like Jainty, like you're going to rotate. And then it just comes down to like, are you good at football? I mean, that's what yards created tries to identify. And like I said, I mean, I've had plenty of misses, but plenty of success too. What was the second part of your question again?
First, I want to quickly chime in. I fully agree with you. I think it's interesting that we talk at the NFL level, we talk so much about like, oh, running back production is very replaceable. Like it's so dependent on the situation and game script and the offensive line and all this stuff. And you're totally right that a lot of people kind of want to just throw out all of those lessons when it comes to like evaluating college running backs just off of their production. So fully with you there. The second part was just like for real life, what do you think is or maybe just more in general, what's a mistake that people make?
The biggest mistake I see is just not adjusting for coaching and scheme. Plain and simple. Like
bars.
Jordan Mason, if you look at the last 2 years of Fantasy Points data charted metrics, Jordan Mason is the best outside zone runner in our database. And I intuitively know that's not right. Like by yards per carry, by missed tackles, like it's a scheme thing. Christian McCaffrey, when he was fully healthy and he was Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he was the best outside zone runner, but it's like, yeah, he's Christian McCaffrey. He does that. Plus he's a, wide receiver too in fantasy football. It's ironic that I brought up Mason because now he's going to this offense that's also pretty good and has a good offensive line. O'Connell's very good at scheming up zone and play action. But I mean, this game really comes down to two things for me at the running back position. It's like I'm a volume. I mean, I'm just going to chase volume for sure, like wherever I can predict it. But I think the efficiency bit really does come down to coaching and scheme. Like we saw it with Devon Achane. He went from averaging like 7-8 yards per carry to more normal 4.5. And that was really one. Mike McDaniel is maybe the most overrated coach in the NFL, just strictly in the sense that he has no idea about situational football. And then their offensive line clapped. They Robert Hunt left to Carolina. That turned out to be a huge move. They're trying to fix it this offseason, but like scheme and offensive line, I think maybe is the biggest adjustment that people really fail to make.
So can I ask a follow-up on that just real quick? You say you're someone that's always chasing volume. To me, there's two levels of chasing volume. And I want to know how you separate it. To me, there was like the best example I could come up with is say the Mike Davis Atlanta Falcons chasing volume year, and then some other opportunity
of all time.
But that's what I mean. So when someone I know. We made a commercial.
That was more like manifesting volume than chasing.
Yeah.
Right,
I could not believe
remember
that ADP that year.
I know.
Yeah. Sorry, not to cut you off, Tom.
The entire offseason was about Mike Davis. He's the only guy. He's coming off whatever season. Like, you want to chase that volume. He's going to have the volume of it. How do you look at volume chasing and kind of weed out the trash cans, if you would? Because even if you're chasing someone getting a lot of touches, eventually at some point, them just being awful has to dive into the mix.
Yeah. Or what's real volume and what's fake volume, and how do you tell the difference? Maybe.
Love that.
That's hard.
We ask hard-hitting questions on this program, Graham. These aren't layups.
I don't think I really have a great answer for like what's real volume versus fake volume. Javonte Williams might be the best example of this, though, is like they just had nothing else last year. Like, Jaleel McLaughlin was like somebody that everybody kind of wanted to make good. Audric Estime was just a 5th-round rookie, and I kind of liked him actually a little bit last year, but he face planted and then he got hurt. I think if you're capable of handling volume like Alvin Kamara, honestly, year over year, that in and of itself is a skill. But to say like, I want to drill down, like what's a definition? Like, what would be your definition of fake volume, Ryan? Because like I want to hear what would be fake volume to you.
Yeah. So to me, fake volume would be, we look at the depth chart and we see the guy that's at the top of it, that probably, as you're saying, has not really had much of a history of actually handling volume at the NFL level. And we say, well, he's at the top of the depth chart. They have nobody else to give touches to. So therefore he's going to have volume. That to me is the fake volume. Because yeah, I'm fully with you. The getting volume year over year and handling it is absolutely a skill. It's one of the most projectable and sticky things that we find at the running back position is just year over year touches and volume. Those are very sticky, very predictive, all that good stuff. So yeah, that's what I try to look for is, guys that have done it before is a good way to predict guys that'll continue to do it.
That right there. Okay. But if you have a guy that, we see this during the season, like running back, I'm struggling. Maybe honestly, the Chiefs are probably a good example. Like once Pacheco broke his leg last year, all of Kareem Hunt volume was fake to me. Like that right there, that's a really good example. It's like Pacheco got hurt. They had nothing else, like absolutely nothing else. I mean, they were basically like, churning through UFL prospects in training camp. That would be the way I'd look at it, is like, if you just have this position where like the Chiefs go 0 running back every year, and they're doing it again this year. They brought in freaking Elijah Mitchell. That's probably the way to look at it. But I think that we struggle in general of like knowing in these types of situations where it is ambiguous, or there is like the Chiefs last year, it's just attrition. Like, I think we struggle to we're overly confident just in general of who those players are. And at running back, it's just such a highly replaceable position. Like those guys just, if you stink, like you're getting replaced quickly. You know, you can just find somebody on the trash heap for free to like come in and do what you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another like addendum I would put into this is just asking yourself, is this a run game? Is this a team that's likely to succeed through the run game? This was my whole argument for the Dallas Cowboys last year and kind of this year as well, is like, yeah, we can debate about like which total Jag UDFA is going to take over the volume, but does it really matter ultimately? Is this a team that's probably going to rack up a lot of production on the ground? No, probably not. So
look at
the Chiefs with how they run that offense. Yeah,
dude, Dallas is the perfect example, Ryan. Like, I mean, they got Dak back healthy. They just added Pickens. They're just punting. They're complete. I mean, Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams are like getting less than typical veteran deals. Jaden Blue would be the only guy I'm like really betting on. I like him a little bit for Dynasty on teams where I'm like just dead at running back and I'm just shooting for upside because he does have that receiving profile. And he was honestly like a really good route runner. If he had a few better throws, I think we would be seeing like if he had better quarterback play. There was a few plays where he was just shaking linebackers and the ball wasn't on him on time or was overthrown. Like he probably should have had 500 receiving yards last year. But yeah, the bottom line is Dallas is not going to be a team that like their team XFP is going to be in the bottom 5 again this year. Like it's just not going to be a team that has a lot of volume and like meaningful volume.
Yeah, I think totally fair. Totally fair. Also, Ryan, we do have a concerned viewer. I feel like Dave. First off, Dave, love you for tuning in. You think this is a family show? We're into second hour on this Tuesday night in June. No idea what's going to be said from this point forward. So if you think this is a family show moving forward, boy, have we had some doozies for you. So sit tight. But yes, also, Ryan, make sure you've got those guns in check. All right,
I made sure they were registered before the show. I got the paperwork all filled out. We're all good.
Don't scratch off the numbers, man.
Yeah, please don't do that. We need to keep this going. So that's it for our questions. Yeah. Quick break. When we come back, we have starred some of our favorite comments and questions from the show tonight. Jacob is going to read them off, and we are going to dive into those when we come back from this break. Try to stick with it. I know we've been told we got to do something about them. We're doing our best. Quick break. Don't go anywhere. Not going to want to miss it. This is a rare opportunity, if you think about it, to do an AMA with Graham Barfield. As many of these as we can get to, we are going to get to. We still have 5 for 5 after this, so stay locked in. Jacob, why don't you kick us off? We should have 19, so hopefully you see 19.
Right. I see 19. I see 19.
Right. We fixed it. Let's go, baby.
We got it. I see 19.
All right, let's kick it off.
Bernie Kosar. All right. Is Graham on a 56 kbps dial-up?
No, I forgot to plug in my Ethernet cable. I think I was on Wi-Fi to start, and yeah, my Wi-Fi is trash here. I think I've got it fixed, but the Ethernet is definitely the way to go. Hopefully, I'm looking and sounding better because that was rough to start there.
You've been good ever since. Always a fun time giving you the business about your internet connection,
oh, dude.
As soon as you go live, it just decides it's time to put it down.
I've tilted way too hard about my internet. Way too much time.
I love it. Jacob, next up.
All right. I have a 104, 106, and 108. I'm not that big on Ted McMillan at 4, and I like Egbuka more. Is it a bad move to get Egbuka at 4 or hope he falls to 6? I'm going to maybe assume this is super or single quarterback because, like,
Yeah.
If it's super flex, Egbuka is falling to 6. I can promise you that.
He even says, or should I get Judkins or Henderson at 4? So this is going to be a 1 QB.
I guess it doesn't really matter. The only quarterback that's like even in that range is Ward, so I guess it doesn't even make that big of an impact.
Yeah, and I'm not taking Ward in 1 quarterback leagues there.
Yeah.
I just went through that whole thing about like get your guys, and if you feel very strongly about Egbuka in that way, I am a huge Tet fan though. I think he's like in that Mike Evans, Drake London vein, premier target earner, going to be super sick in their RPO game. If you're bad at running back, man, just get a running back there.
Agree.
I've got Judkins ahead of Henderson, but I could certainly make the argument for Henderson in like PPR. I think we all know the receiving role is going to be really good.
So I would say, like, the way I would think about this, if you only had 104, depending on how many leagues you play in and exposure balancing and all that stuff. Let's say you only had 104 and this was your only league. I would probably just tell you to just take Egbuka if that's who you genuinely like the most. Because you have the 106 and the 108, I think you should think less about 4 and you should think more about what's the best combination of 3 players you can get. I think that the odds of McMillan going at 5 are quite high if you take not McMillan at 4. So is Egbuka at 4 plus one of Judkins or Henderson at 6 plus whoever you get at 8 better, or would McMillan at 4, maybe Egbuka at 6 and one of those running backs at 8, or however else you want to work it out? Are you so out on McMillan that you're going to prefer who you end up taking at 8 over him?
Yeah.
So then just don't take Tet. But if not, then I think you want to take Tet at 4 because I bet you're going to get who you would otherwise take at 4 and 6 at 6 and 8 or something close to that.
Yeah, I would take Tet at 4, but if you, like you just said, there's probably a really good chance Egbuka is going to get back to a 6. So just take one of those running backs there, and then 108 is RJ Harvey. Just lock it in.
Yep, I like it. Dynasty Dave wants to know what the analytics say about deep dish. Like, I would love to dive into those analytics, but that's for my Italian pizza critique blog that I will be starting. Yeah, right. Like, I'm going to start a blog. I don't read. Love the question, TD. John Johnson just has a comment. Says that's exactly why Caleb Johnson's stats are so useless. Dude gets to break the worst tackle attempts behind the best blocking line. This goes back to earlier conversation. You'll be able to get in the timestamps talking about the yards created. Papacino wants to know, is yards created more accurate for picking out talent?
The last time I tested this was 3 off seasons ago, and
there's a follow-up. Sorry. Or better for highlighting bad players who certainly get usurped.
That's the tricky part there, Papa. That's the tricky part. I think that's where we get overconfident. But yeah, it is more predictive of career fantasy points than like just using, rushing yards per game or any athletic testing measure. It's more predictive than yards after contact. I think I definitely used PFF for that when I tested it last. So, it's certainly not perfect. I mean, the correlation to career fantasy points is still like 0.35, but that's much better than virtually everything else. We're just trying to be like, I always think of this as like we're looking through keyholes with stuff because we don't have the full picture. Like NFL teams have like everything, you know what I mean? Like they've got full medicals. We don't have that. That's a really big factor at running back, in my opinion, is not having the full medicals.
Huge.
Yeah, it's super tricky, and we're kind of looking through keyholes at that. But the one thing that we all have is tape, and trying to convert that into like actionable numbers it's been pretty predictive.
Love that. We have Luke Angelica states, my wife created yards
the best
between
question in the whole thing.
Trust me, I'm getting to it. My wife created yards between me and the kids when she took them. So hit the golf course. Spend some
Work on your short game, Luke.
I've created a yard.
I was dying laughing at some of these comments.
Yeah.
Like, wow, you guys were being serious. So I made sure to save them. Derek Brown says, Heath, are you wearing a tank top or is that one of those spoof t-shirts of a sun-deprived person wearing a tank top or swimsuit?
No one has ever been more owned than Ryan.
Followed up by
Ryan doesn't have time to go in the sun. He's too busy in the data suite and
followed up by Sean. Heath is here.
You are owned harder than 5 New York City grocery stores are about to be by the government.
Heath says Heath is here. I thought it was his hair superimposed on the wall. This chat, you guys are so absolutely unhinged, and I do
want you guys to know that I spent the entirety of Sunday laying on the beach as well, and this was the result.
It shows.
So it's not that I don't get sun. It's not that I don't go outside. This is my skin. It is what it is. I'm not going to apologize for it.
Live your best life, Ryan. Don't let the haters hate. John Johnson says, so Jarquez Hunter being super elusive in the SEC would be predictive.
Yeah, I don't know. I was listening to Sean McVay after they drafted him, and he brought that up of like, yeah, we loved his tape. Yeah, he really like fit what we did, blah, blah, blah. But then he brought up the SEC thing and the level of competition. He's like, oh yeah, he was doing this against a great level of competition. And it's like, okay, Blake Corum was a significantly worse prospect and he was against good level of competition too. Like, why do you not have that energy for Blake Corum? I don't get it. I just go back and forth with this. Like, yeah, I guess it's slightly more impressive that he did in the SEC. But, I was bashing Kareem Hunt earlier in the show. Like, he was a yards created standout, and he did it at Toledo. And he was the best player on the football field in every single game. So it's like, yeah, sure. Maybe it's not as impressive he was doing it against that level of competition at Toledo, but, like, the yards created numbers and his missed tackle force numbers were incredibly good. And with running back specifically, we were just starting the show off with missed tackles force, like that being super sticky. It almost like doesn't matter the level of competition. Like if you're really good at forcing missed tackles and creating on your own behind bad blocking, which Hunt had at Toledo, like you're probably going to be pretty good in the NFL.
Love it. Say like Hunter is maybe less like specifically to yards created because I think the goal is to already account for a lot of these factors. But like, I will say something that makes me impressed by Hunter is doing it not only in the SEC but like on a kind of shitty SEC team.
Yeah.
In Auburn and specifically like a team with Peyton Thorne at quarterback who sucks. It was not an SEC quality quarterback at all.
Dude, I wanted to gouge my eyes out on some of their plays.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
So like I think that one thing that sometimes gets lost when people do things at a low level of competition is like, yes, you can isolate and say he's in the open field versus this middle linebacker, and that middle linebacker is a future mechanic. But like a lot of times, it's like your O-line is also shittier. Your coaches are also shittier. Your quarterback is also shittier. So it's like, yes, the competition is worse, but everybody else who's supposed to help you succeed is also worse. So there's instances where you might get isolated against an inferior player and are more likely to win that interaction. But I think a lot of that stuff gets factored out because the guys that I get a little concerned about sometimes are the players that play on like the one really good team in the otherwise shitty conference, where I get slightly concerned. But we've seen guys like that was like a little like red flag that I had with like Tyjae Spears, for instance, where Tulane was just like romping people in a bad conference, and then he turns out to be a pretty darn good player. So I think maybe I've over-indexed on that.
Fair. We addressed that one. We can move on. Papacino says, I hope y'all know that the content you create is addictive. And now I got to hope y'all stay as addicted to creating the content that people are to consuming it. Well, I'll tell you this. The show has not missed a week that wasn't a planned break for more than 5 years. So it doesn't matter how many times you send in requests to fire me. It's not going anywhere. We're staying right here for all of the bad jokes and everything that comes with it. Have no fear. Paul Vo says, how do you decide on situation versus talent? Debating on Henderson versus Judkins. Clear starter versus good pass protection, and will take over eventually. So you kind of hit on this.
Yeah, in Dynasty specifically, like, give me Judkins just because, like, I feel very strongly that he's everything he does well, everything he did well at college, like, will immediately translate. Like, his yards created numbers, like, okay, yeah, sure, and this like pretty good class, like, they're not like standout good, but they're still better than Trevion Henderson by a tenth of a yard. Okay, yeah, he was at 4.6 yards created per carry. Trevion Henderson was at 4.5. He was more elusive than Trevion Henderson. I think we're all kind of forgetting that the Patriots, they've re-signed Ramondre Stevenson, and he's still pretty good at like the things that Trevion Henderson is not. Henderson has been one of the best inside zone carriers in the league for the last couple of years, and that is not Trevion Henderson's game. I think we have a clear situation where it's like the David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs corollary on just a way worse offense. As bullish as I am on Drake May and the Patriots this year, and they have a really easy schedule, I think Judkins is a bell cow, whereas I have to kind of squint to see that with Trevion Henderson.
Love it. Ryan C. wants to know, can Chase Brown keep up the workload?
I wrote about this over the weekend. And
real volume or fake volume? Yeah.
Real. Well, Zach Moss did, like, he had the neck injury, but
but
even in those two or three
reading
games,
some of the camp reports, Zach Moss is mentioned as like a distant fourth.
Yeah.
So like it sounds like he is decisively behind P. Ryan and probably behind Brooks. So I don't think Moss is a big issue this year.
Yeah, and the takeover was starting to happen. Like week 6 and 7, Moss's
100%.
role like really started to fall by the wayside, and then he got hurt. And then you mentioned it. I mean, I looked this up at Over the Cap. I think Samaje Perine got more guaranteed money in his deal than Zach Moss did. And I didn't watch Taj Brooks, but it's clear the Bengals, they value running backs that were productive in college, and Brooks definitely has a good production profile. Chase Brown did too. And we saw the incremental progress with Brown. Like, my only pushback was that he's got great juice, good pass catcher, attached to Joe Burrow. Sign me up. But he had poor vision. And then the last year, it kind of all clicked. The play processing, all of it got better. And, if we reduce his XFP by 20%, he would still be the RB5. And that's just
wow.
Yeah,
he's unreal.
I think I'm all in. Like I think that's where I'm at. Is just like round 3, I'm all in.
Like the thumbnail, all we needed was Graham to bless us with positive Chase Brown rhetoric.
Chase Brown is like the exact kind of guy that I feel like if this was like 4 or 5 years ago, he'd be going at like the 110, like Kenny and Drake that year with the Cardinals, and I would be like very, very out.
Yes. If we're taking him over Malik Neighbors, it's like, what are we doing? Okay,
but like he's the exact kind of dude that has gotten priced down with how we've, for the most part, I think gotten a lot better at evaluating running backs in seasonal leagues. But now it's to the point that I'm quite excited, and all the stuff they've ever said about him. I mean, even last year, I think they wanted to bring him along slowly because he had basically barely played as a rookie. They ramped him up when he started playing better. And really, I think what they missed down the stretch, like that he was playing snaps that maybe he otherwise wouldn't have or shouldn't have, it's mostly, to me, pass blocking snaps. Like you look in the offseason, they said, we got to add to the running back room. We're looking to, take some of the pressure off him on third downs in pass pro just to give him some reps. And then they go out and sign like the quintessential 3rd and 10 running back in Samaje Perine, right? Yeah. So to me, that speaks volumes as to like they're not trying to get him to touch the ball less. They might want to bring down his snaps, but not really at the expense of his like total usage.
Production.
Yeah, I mean they
preserving him.
They tried to do that midseason. I mean, they went out and traded for Khalil Herbert, and that didn't.
Who is not a pass protector.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it got to the point in season where I had to stop writing every single week. Yeah, Chase Brown received every single running back opportunity because it was week after week after week. Like I guess we're not even pretending that Khalil Herbert is like an option to take away any snaps whatsoever. Yeah,
didn't they got him? They gave him like one touch, and they were like, "You're good, buddy. Like, relax."
Yeah,
yeah. They gave him some like change up carries, but I think they wanted to try to have that dynamic of like, yeah, we can't play Chase Brown at a Christian McCaffrey level, but even Chase Brown at like a 70 to 75% snap rate this season, where he's going, both in redraft and dynasty, is still a good value.
Yeah, I like it. Brandon Martinez says 5 keeper dynasty PPR league. Y'all taking Rashee Rice, Travis Hunter, Omarion Hampton, Tet, or T. Higgins. Ken Walker might be on the board. Said my keepers are currently Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Jefferson, Bijan, and Bucky. This is just an easy Rashee Rice to me.
Agreed.
But let's go around the board.
Yeah,
Everyone's
I'm team
nodding.
Rashee. I'm never gonna say not Rashee.
Yeah. Jacob, you are hammering the Rashee Rice tweets
In
over
a
the
5
last
keeper
week.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was a straight dynasty. I might be more interested in Hampton or Hunter, but for a keeper, I'm going Rashee.
I would just take Rice over all of them outright.
Go back to the other 4 guys. It was Rice, Tet, Hunter,
Hampton, and T. Higgins.
Oh. Yeah, Hampton's not even like a part of that to me. With the running backs you have, I mean, you're good. You're set. Bijan and Bucky is like.
Yeah, you're rich as you're rich as hell. I won't even lie. Herms, our mans, says, "What is the least predictive metric out there that you still like to look at because it's fun?" Question mark.
That's a great question. Least predictive
touchdowns, right? That's got to be.
I mean, yeah, touchdowns probably is it, but like, I think they are predictive.
Yeah, they're more predictive than a lot of things that you probably think aren't.
I think honestly, people that say touchdowns aren't predictive are people that don't win at fantasy football, and they just like to be like, "Oh, it's random."
That hurts, given that I just suggested it. But that's
no.
But
I mean, you are kind of right. It's not really.
No, it's okay. I don't need a pity correction. I understand.
No, I mean, it's not a metric though, in the sense of like I think of like yards per route run as a metric.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, yards per carry. Like, I think that probably is it. Like, I kind of think of yards per carry as like ERA with pitchers. It's like,
yeah.
It can be really stupid, fluky on small sample, but like over 4 years, you want your guy having a very high or above average yards per carry.
It's the Tank Bigsby's getting boosted.
It's like
multiple 50-yarders.
Yeah, it's like it at a certain point. You look at a Joe Mixon and you're like, you haven't had over a 4.1 since literally 2019. And it's like, that's probably indicative of something. But in a given year, you look at like a Barkley's yards per carry in like some of his down years, and you could easily look at it and say like he's probably a lot better than this yards per carry suggests.
Exactly. Look at Etienne, right? There's a pattern now. There's a created pattern, multiple seasons stacked on top of each other. So I like that. TD says Ryan is light mode personified. That's a top tier joke. We love TD.
That's funny.
Macho Man Zandy says Tom isn't getting fired. I just broke into tears on my forklift. I know. I'm not returning back to where my initial calling was, back on a forklift. I'm sorry to disappoint. Sean Jefferson says, I think Thomas has to eat a deep dish pizza when he loses 5 for 5. First mistake is thinking I'm like relinquishing my 5-game lead in 5 for 5. I think you're out of your mind. And Hallen Maxwell says half this chat will burn a midseason waiver wire number 1 on Taj Brooks. If they have, then they're not listening to the Dynasty Points market report, because Andy Buckler and I have already been hammering people to pick up Taj Brooks free if he's not drafted in your 4th round. Gentlemen, I think we did have one more. Thought on Chase Brown's TD prop being 5.5. He says kind of low, right? I think that's low.
Yeah. Really Bengals ran the most plays inside the 10-yard line last year. just like by a 10th over Washington. Obviously, Joe is, he's going to be feeding his guys Chase and T, but 5.5 is a little low.
Yeah.
Who else is taking goal line carries? Zach Moss might get cut.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow's gonna enjoy
They're gonna push Joe Burrow. Well,
this is like when he went down. Chase Brown goes down, easy walking touchdown, goes down at the one, hurts himself, and Joe Burrow just sneaks it in anyway. We're gonna see some Joe Burrow 1 yard sneaks. I can tell. That's gonna do it for the podcast version. If you want the best game in fantasy football, the game that has been noticeably attempted to be recreated, doubled, that has never quite been able to hit the same, then you need to head over to YouTube right now. We're diving with 5 for 5. This is Graham's first 5 for 5. Jacob's first 5 for 5. And the chat has a weird obsession with me losing 5 for 5. We're going to be right back. If you're new here, to explain how this works, sit tight. You're not going to want to go anywhere. Okay, so as you can see, we had to make some adjustments to the graphics. I'm obviously still in first, and you're defending 5 for 5 champion with 8 wins here in the Big 2-5. Ryan Heath, known traitor to the show, still with 3 as he wasn't here to defend his back-to-back win last week. Kind of cowardice, not going to lie. Lucas Gilbert here, still needing a rebound after talking a copious amount of shit after winning a couple of times when I came back. Although today he is hosting. Chat got the win last week. They moved to 2. The gremlin gets a little bit bigger. So we had to give them a little boost for 5 for 5. Okay. It's not a weird obsession. You cut promos on us every week. Fair.
You seem to be obsessed with their obsession.
I am obsessed with it's a competitive balance, Jacob. When you have that dog in you, you can't help but remain insanely competitive.
As far
Jacob,
as I'm concerned, this is the first real game of 5 for 5 ever on the show, because it's the first time I'm competing instead of hosting.
Well, then you need to blame yourself for not making a good enough 5 for 5 then, Jacob. That's on you to make it a real one.
Well, it's just the level of competition is so watered down without me.
Oh, okay. Got it. So all Tennessee questions involved here. All these players are going to have some sort of connection to Tennessee. I will say I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I can't just pick players that I know Jacob likes. So I am at a disadvantage. Jacob is one of the best trivia players I know. So
I'm just talking a lot of shit.
I feel like lawyers in general are just great trivia players, and I could see you being an awesome trivia player, Jacob.
Right.
Well, so I appreciate you guys all gassing me up to try and get plus money on Tom on predict it, but
all right, Jacob, run through the rules I know we have new watchers today with Graham popping on, so run through the rules.
Well, I don't know, quick. Lucas, are the rules still the same this week?
The rules are still the same. I did try to stick with the theme, as Jacob often does. And the theme this week is going to be college football record holders.
I knew it.
Okay, cool.
I knew. Did I not?
I'm just going to mute myself. I'm going to, I'll turn off my camera.
I literally only know
go fill up my water bottle. You guys can have fun for the next 20 minutes.
I made it fun in obscure retribution.
Preemptive tilt. Classic Ryan.
He's gonna get the first 2 questions right.
I really wanted to dig into Jacob there for the confidence, but I'm really glad I didn't. Now that I've heard what the theme is, because would not have been able to back it up.
All right, once Ryan's done filibustering about how bad he thinks he's gonna do, the rules are simple. There's up to 5 clues that now Lucas has prepared for each question. We get 5 points if we answer on the first clue, all the way down to 1 point for the last clue. The chat gets to play. But the winner among us wins ties versus the chat. And a tie would be anytime you get it on the same clue. So even if the chat gets it a moment ahead of time. All right, Lucas, your show.
Everybody
from here.
minimize
I'm
the
only
chat.
Answering. Yeah. I got full
Lucas, don't let the
screen
chat
on
bully
last.
you either. I know you've been
Yeah, I know you had a
on the
weird.
side of the chat a lot.
Yeah.
So let's just make sure we
Hold
gotta.
Lucas,
on.
I think you're gonna
Talking
do.
about
I think
the
you're gonna do a
one time-
tremendous job.
Oh,
I think
The
you're
one
gonna do great.
time
fucking up.
I was taking timestamps in the background, and then I could see what the chat was doing. Yeah, I wanted justice for them, but apparently I'm pro chat.
You are pro
Goodness.
chat. You are.
No
Yeah.
justice, no peace.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, as I said earlier, the theme this week is college football record holders, but I wanted to make it kind of fun, and these are going to be more obscure records.
Oh, all right.
So as we're going through it, just keep that in mind. The record
We're all
might
just
not
guys
be
in
what it
college
seems.
football who are into vinyl.
Oh gosh. All right. Question number 1. This player went undrafted in 2015.
Man. Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this one.
Oh, Graham, I don't think I said this rule before, but if you guess wrong and other people don't guess at all, then they get to guess ahead of you the next round.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So
Yep.
I too will pass. You can't block someone from guessing though. So like if you guessed wrong and I pass, I can't then pass the next round and not let you guess.
Can
But
I
do
can
get
I
to guess ahead of you?
can I make a guess? I know I always
can.
ask, but I always feel weird.
I don't know why you always ask.
I do always. It's a weird habit. Is it Thomas Rawls?
No.
I would be crazy if you pulled that. I have no idea.
I thought he was like
Giving us
2016. I could be.
I
wrong.
might have gotten it wrong, but
Yeah, that's why it was a bad guess. That's why I was
No,
like,
that was actually a great guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
I have
Right.
no idea.
No idea.
3,
I
2.
usually get more in my first
One.
place.
I know, but there's a lot coming in this one.
All right.
This player holds the record for most total yards and passing yards in a single game and most yards in a season, all done in 2012.
Who's Case Keenum?
Nope.
who is?
That's a good guess, though.
Say all the records again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. So this player holds a record for most total yards, most passing yards in a single game, and most yards in a season. And the chat has already got it. So,
Damn.
Oh wow.
Good for them.
I am a little
Yeah.
curious with this because a lot of this is Googleable.
Is it? I can guess, right? Because Jacob went.
Yeah, I'm not gonna guess.
I think
so yeah.
technically Ryan and Graham can guess before you.
I'm
Graham can
drawing
guess.
blanks.
I'm not. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all good.
All right, Tom.
It's gonna be one of my favorites that I've ever had on this program. A player that I touted so much, Jacob continuously rolled his eyes at me. Is Taylor Heineke.
It is Taylor
Oh,
Heineke
nice.
for 4
my
points.
God.
My goat.
Yes.
Holy shit.
These are FCS records,
Wow.
Mhm.
but he absolutely dominated FCS back in 2012 at the same time that, goodness, we had, I'm losing my mind
Yeah,
here,
it's
but
one of my favorite late round quarterback plays that Jacob got so tired of hearing me talk about.
Yeah, good pull.
yes.
Right
So
of Old Dominion University.
Joe
out of
Dolan
all-
used to call
out of
him.
OTU.
He used to call him Hospital Ball Heineke for all the receivers.
Yeah, I called him Tay Tay. He was my
He also
Taylor
had
Swift.
over
Heineke
10,000 total
career.
yards, and at one point in time had the most total yards in an FBS career
My God.
because of it. Yeah, because he also was at ODU at the time that they were transitioning from FCS to FBS. His
Alright.
other hints were going to be that his second career start came in the playoffs against Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
Yeah, I would have had this.
Oh yeah,
so
that would
quick.
have been immediate. Yeah.
where he filled in for Dwayne Haskins and Alex Smith and currently
That would-
backs up Justin Herbert.
R.I.P. R.I.P. to our boy.
Thomas Rawls was 2015, by the way, so you knock on me for that one too. For
Was he indeed
making fun of
undrafted?
Tom.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, he was
not
for
bad.
sure undrafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So 4 points for Tom. Yes, I thought it's being a little tricky there with bringing in some FCS records.
I
for
love
us.
it. I love it. We've had Trey Lance in here. We've had other NDU. I love it.
Yeah, that
division
was. I'm
ranking?
actually really upset that you didn't clarify that. That was totally what kept me from getting that it was Taylor Heineke. Is that
Totally.
I was not thinking that FCS would count. That was totally what was keeping me off that one.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
That's
there.
right.
Watch.
Moving on to question number 2, or player number 2, I should say. All right, first hint. This player holds a combined receiving record with a player from the Houston Texans.
A combined receiving.
Can I ask what you
A
mean
combined
by
single game receiving record,
Oh,
I should say.
Combined single game, like he's tied
what does
for the
mean
record.
combined?
Yeah, what's that mean?
rushing plus receiving.
It was combined total yards.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
He shares it with a player on the Houston Texans. He said.
From.
So not necessarily
currently
on it.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh,
From.
okay.
I'll pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this. I think
I'll pass too.
that's an
but
insane hint.
I have something percolating in my head, but all right.
Same. And you said it's a receiver or just a player?
Well, I think that's
All I said was player. All right. 3,
Yeah. I got
2,
And
1.
it's a college
Moving on.
record?
Second hint. He has 40 career receiving touchdowns in college.
Is this?
I'm
Literally anybody.
Can you give us? Is this player active? Is he still active, like in the NFL?
That's not in the clues, Graham.
you
That's
can't.
not
You
All right.
gotta be in the clues. You can't probe for
Hey,
clues.
listen, the points are made up. She doesn't matter. I thought I'd ask.
All right.
Yeah,
And this is now, so this is completely
Okay,
still
clue
reset.
three.
Clue 3, here we are. Holds the record for most consecutive 100-yard and 200-yard receiving games in college.
in college.
You're gonna have to give me like a city that his last name sounds like or something if you want me to get in on this at all. I'm totally lost.
So,
at sea.
Ryan, I do have an alternate 5 for 5 that I thought about doing that did have sounds likes. So that one is there if I'm ever asked to do it again. I don't know if that will be
Perfect.
the case.
Yeah,
Can you
Feed
give
me
the
that
clue
way.
again?
Dude, this
One more time.
The clue is he holds the record for college for most consecutive 100-yard and 200-yard receiving games,
Oh,
which is like one of my absolute favorite sort of random records.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move on to hint number 4 here. He was drafted 5th overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2012.
Justin Blackman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
Point for Tom.
Nice.
Yes, and then the last hint was going to be is one of only 2 players to win the Blitnikoff Award twice, with one of the guesses that originally came from the chat, Michael Crabtree.
Yeah.
Who is the teammate?
Oh, so no, he combined with oh my
Oh,
gosh.
got you. I understand.
Yeah,
Oh,
I-
it's a
now I-
combined. Okay, now I understand. So him.
Sorry,
and the
yeah, I
other
didn't
guy
really
had
know
the
how
most
to
combined
do-
receiving yards.
You're doing
Yeah.
fine, Lucas.
That was not clear. All right, cool.
Yeah, and now I can't even think of the Houston Texans wide receiver. It was their absolute legend.
Andre
That-
Johnson.
It would have
Andre
been.
Johnson?
It would have been him and
Thank you,
Andre.
Andre Johnson and
That
Justin
player.
Blackman combined for the
Oh.
most total yards between 2 receivers in a single
Oh, like
game.
in the same NFL game, but on opposing teams.
Yes. Sorry, I
Okay.
could have given
Oh my
more to
gosh,
that,
yeah.
but I was getting
Oh, good.
nervous with
No,
that.
you're good.
No. Andre Johnson
Oh,
was the
good.
first guy I thought of when you said Texan receiver, because that's just what I.
I feel like I did not
Always think
perceive opposing team. All right, that's cool though. That's sweet.
Yeah.
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 Once again,
That's
just
really
another
what
just
stopped me
random
from
record.
getting that
That's
one.
okay. That's why as soon as
I'm mad
I
about
got the
this one,
clue
too.
that I understood, we were good.
Yeah.
There was only one receiver the Jaguars ever took that high.
So,
it was Justin Blackman.
Another fun Justin Blackman stat. I believe he is the only receiver in college football history to have an entire season in which he finished every game with more than 100 receiving yards. Part
Yeah, that's
of
insane.
what led to his record,
Pretty insane.
That's insane.
Sweet.
especially whenever he's getting double and triple teamed all the time.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
insane. Love it. Next up,
Yeah.
let's go.
All right, here we go. I'm doing timestamps too, so give me a second here. For player number 3. All right. Hint number 1. This player holds the record for most consecutive games with 2 or more touchdowns in college.
2 or more.
Oh, we're gonna know the position.
It's got to be a running back. Is it Barry Sanders?
It is not Barry Sanders.
What a guess.
I'm
In all seriousness, Barry Sanders is I think it
good
was
player.
yeah, look, he's all right, right? I mean, he's okay. No, his like final season, didn't he have like 35 touchdowns or something like that? How is it not?
It was absurd.
Yeah.
All right.
Who the
All
hell
right,
scored more touchdowns than Barry Sanders?
But it's not
All right.
about more touchdowns.
We're
It's
about
more
to
about
find out.
I know, but-
consecutive 2 touchdown
Well,
games.
Speaking
Yeah.
of which,
Okay.
hint number 2. This player shares the record for number of rushing touchdowns in a season, albeit with more games played than Barry Sanders, who holds the record.
Oh, a Monty Ball.
Point Jacob.
Nicely
Nice.
done.
Go.
Dude.
Yes, it is Monty Ball. So right now the points are Thomas has 6 points, Jacob has 4.
Monty Ball, a
And-
Bronco.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Yeah,
is a
that's-
First
Bronco.
round
that's
pick,
exactly-
baby. Or no,
yeah,
second
that's
round pick.
Second round. He was drafted in the second round in 2013 NFL draft, where he was only
I was
in the league for 2
so
years.
close to saying Melvin Gordon, and then like right before I said Melvin Gordon, I was like, wrong Wisconsin running back.
Alan Maxwell missed it on the first guess because he said Melvin Gordon. Actually, he wouldn't have got credit because he guessed twice in the first round. But yes, Melvin
All right.
Gordon was another popular guess.
Yeah. All right.
So, moving on to player number 4. Sorry, once again, doing it in timestamps, so I apologize if I'm a little slow here.
Tom, what kind of device have you got going on there?
Yeah, you're just going to
Oh,
town.
dude,
like
I, have the
this?
same I have the same back scratcher. Literally
Yeah,
the same
it's
one.
just like a
Oh,
like
yeah.
a little. It's an extendable back scratcher.
It's
okay?
also a great butt scratcher.
It is, yeah. And you know what? If you're you know your ankle's a little itchy in the sock, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta, you know,
So what other places do you stick this thing? I'm hearing a lot of
ball sack,
Okay,
ass
redacted.
You're
crack,
just gonna keep
Redacted.
going. Yeah.
ball sack,
redacted.
ass crack, ankles, wherever it needs, wherever the sweat takes you is really what's important.
Yeah.
All right, player number 4. The first hint, he had a 6-year NFL career. Already out of the NFL.
All right,
A 6-year?
Leonard Fournette.
No, Ryan.
That's just my random first round guess for
I like that you're putting in an
any
effort.
career.
I like it.
Your NFL career. Gold record holder.
I think Fournette actually played 7. He had 4 with the Jags,
Yeah.
2 with the Bucks, and then he had that one more, right? He got signed with the Bills.
Well, he was in the 2017 class, and he didn't play in 24, but he played in 23. So yeah, 7.
Yeah. That's a good guess though. Shit.
That is somehow a college football record holder.
Wait, Lucas, you said he's not in the NFL anymore?
He is not in the NFL anymore because he had a 6-year NFL career.
Well, shit. Sorry.
All right. I'm going to give it 3, 2, 1. Moving on.
I'm trying to think of every
This
record
player
breaker I
set
can
the
think of.
record for most career receiving yards and 100-yard games at the same time that Cooper Kupp set this record at the FCS level.
Most receiving yards and 100-yard games.
It's He was an absolute bust. He's an absolute bust.
Yeah.
Billy's favorite player is Corey Davis.
Oh, that's gonna be right, isn't it?
Thomas with
damn.
Yes, Corey Davis.
Billy's favorite player. I sent him an autographed jersey of Corey Davis year 2 of this podcast, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just running through that class in my head. I was probably 10 seconds from getting to Corey Davis, but good one.
Thanks, Billy.
So the next hint was drafted 64 spots higher than Cooper Kupp. And he also caught a touchdown pass from Derrick Henry in the 2019 playoffs against the Ravens, but never eclipsed more than 1,000 yards.
Billy coming back, helping me out from beyond. He's not dead, but he's not all around the show. I feel that's important to know.
You all have got I have been very intrigued with how this has been going. There's only been one player that really gave you all fits, with that being Justin Blackmon. Everybody else you've gotten on the second guess. So Thomas is saying with 10 points. Jacob Sanderson has 4 points. Ryan and Graham and the chat all with 0. So you all have to get this on
Get it on the first clue.
Yes. Player 5, we are playing for double points. Unless
get it on
you want to make a change.
For a tiebreaker.
What was that?
No. Well, I shouldn't be in charge of making changes. I'm playing. No, keep the same rules.
Fair enough.
I was doing the mental calculations. All right, so I got to get this by clue 3 for a tiebreaker.
Yes.
Clue 2 for a win. All right.
Yes. All right. So for player number 5, we are looking for somebody who is undrafted in 2008. Really like this undrafted theme here.
Drafted in 2008.
I'm not going to get
I can
undrafted
show.
in 2008. That's not going to happen. Too long ago.
Yeah, that was like just before my time too. I was been degenerate since 2012. Undrafted.
All right, I'm going to give the chat just a little bit of time here. So they've only put in one guess for this.
Okay. Come on, 2008 UDFAs. Who was back from that era? No idea.
Yeah.
All right.
I need the second.
All right,
I'm waving the white
All right.
flag.
Yeah.
All right.
You guys can still
Second
play
hit.
spoiler though.
His 9-year career featured 4 teams that all are in states that have an ocean border.
This was my perfect clue, Lucas. Come on. You waited to break out the geography until
That's
I was
hilarious.
mathematically eliminated.
Say the first part of the clue again.
His 9-year career featured 4 teams that all are in states that have an ocean border. And the chat has now gotten it. So they can play spoiler.
What?
Good for them. I'm going to look at that. Whoa, okay,
Part of
that's a
it-
good one. I like it.
Holy shit. They got it off that?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Chad, I thought you were against Tom.
No,
Chat's
chat, you
Chat's
did
just
not
trying to
get it
seal the
round
win for
1.
Tom.
So chat is now trying to argue with me here. No, you did not get it
don't
round
let the
1.
chat
I am
push
not
you
going to count where the same person submitted a guess and then immediately followed it up with another guess. I am not counting that.
So I win no matter what.
Unless Jacob gets
Unless
it.
I can get it, but I don't think I'm going to get it.
It is
I
not
have an
rigged. I am
answer.
not going to give the chat the ability to be able to guess twice. See, and Hallen's arguing in the chat too.
I don't want to give it away. There's only one significant undrafted player from that draft class that I can think of, and he was a fantasy football PPR phenomenon.
Stop
Danny
giving him
Woodhead.
hints. Why are you giving him hints?
Well, just,
All right.
well, just say it. I mean, say your guess at this point. If you give you a hit, you bet you will guess. Otherwise, you're
5, 4,
yeah. I got nothing.
3,
Is it not Danny Woodhead?
2, 1. It is Danny Woodhead.
Wow,
There's
that's
only
awesome.
one undrafted player from that class that was relevant in fantasy football, and the great state of New York does, in fact, border
He played
the
what?
water.
New England,
New
Boston.
England,
Yeah, so
Boston.
Massachusetts played for the Chargers.
Yep.
I don't know the fourth team.
Oh, Bolt. Did he play for the Ravens ever? What other teams did he
No,
play for?
Jets.
Played for the Jets? I don't even remember.
I
that.
did not know he
I
played.
only remember Pats and Chargers.
Yeah, so now I
Yeah,
have to pull it back up. Jacob, I'll let you
He did.
deal
He
with
played.
the
He
chat,
played for the Jets. Yeah, he
because
played for the Jets
I
first.
do not agree with them. Yes, it was
What?
the Ravens
Yeah.
and the
Ravens
Jets.
was last, yeah.
And no,
Wait,
you
what?
don't.
Andy
I don't
was
shouldn't
last.
get a playoff. I'm
Ravens-
sorry. Like
Ravens legend, by the way. Jets legend, Ravens legend, PPR
Oh.
legend.
Yeah,
my goat.
this like couldn't. I don't understand what the chat's talking about. I rolled it up. Hallen said Amendola, then said, or is it Woodhead? Like you said Amendola first.
and then
Button
so
down.
Jason
Chad,
Wright does
Chad
say
get owned. You did not get it.
Yeah, but the chat.
immediately
Yeah, but
after.
okay, but yeah, like Hallen, you fucked up. You're an idiot. You said Amendola, then you said Woodhead. Either you gave the hint to Jason Wright, or if you didn't, you fucked Jason Wright, and you should apologize to Jason Wright via personalized note. Because as soon as you said it, it's not like you can. It's not like you can take a second guess, and then someone else in the chat can just be like, "Oh, well, that was his guess, but I like it more, so I'm going to make it mine." I believe that Jason Wright probably knew it independently, but that's impossible for Lucas to check. So you fucked him, Hallen. Go sit in a corner and think about what you did.
So I will say, from me looking at it, there was a significant time gap between me seeing Hallen make his two guesses,
but
and then looking again and seeing Jason guess Danny Woodhead. The record that Danny Woodhead's that I chose from Danny Woodhead is he holds multiple rushing records, including season and career yards, but most impressively holds the record for most number of games with 200 plus rushing yards and scoring a touchdown in 37 consecutive games.
yeah, he was insane. A dynasty undrafted free agent in rookie drafts in 2008 dynasty rookie drafts. He was, again, PPR, and chat doesn't matter because your boy got it. You guys were cooked right from the get-go. So as always, we've updated the graphic. I have finally fixed what I got told was the wrong number of wins for Ryan. Apparently I had gifted him one.
Wait, what? No, absolutely not. You just took.
I
Is that
thought
what
you've
you
been at
just
two.
said?
You just took a win
No.
away from Ryan?
I
I
did
thought
take
you've
one
been
away
at
from
two,
Ryan.
Ryan. Maybe
been at
I'm wrong
three.
here.
I won.
Okay.
Yeah, I won my
Okay.
third one.
So Lucas, that's Lucas's fault. But
I'm
either
totally
way,
bullshitting. I had 2 wins the entire time. I thought I was. I feel too
Okay,
bad.
I was
let myself
about
get
to
away with
say-
that.
okay, I'm gonna check
I
the
just
chat.
wanted.
in a
I
minute.
wanted to see. I wanted to see if you would let me get away with it, and it looks like I would have. But
I'm gonna check the chat. I'm gonna check the chat in a minute. But as we always do, 9 wins, comfortable lead. Everyone else tied with 2. You're peasants.
Thomas, I will give you the opportunity to
Mhm.
put your win at stake for one more record.
No, why would I
guess.
do that? Why would I?
Well,
do
it's just
I
because
won
it's
this thing.
one of the most intriguing
If-
records I think I've ever seen.
If I didn't know it, I would give it up. But I did. I had the chance to break tie anyway. I'm taking that win to the bank. We rolled it up. We're almost at 2 hours with our man Graham Barfield. I just want to thank my agent. I want to thank my coaches. I want to thank my parents for abandoning me to give me nothing but time to worry about obscure football facts. Hold that L for me, Jacob, and all your trivia having. Shout out to all you guys for watching this show. Graham, we ask our guests. See promo. Retired pro wrestler. You got to bust him out every once in a while. What you gonna do? Graham, final thoughts on today's show. Final thoughts on yards created. We like to ask our guests our final thoughts when we have them. Final thoughts for the people.
Full eyes, full heart, Bhayshul Tuten. That's all I got.
I like that. I like that. I love it. I love the flair. With that being said, obviously Ryan Heath back for vacation. He's dropping content for you guys nonstop. Follow the Fantasy Points data account. You're getting a lot of good stuff there. Lucas is constantly working on stuff. I can tell you from the inside that we have some Dynasty tools in the works. I cannot speak on what exactly it is, but I can tell you that we made promises years ago when we got here, and we are following through on them. The Dynasty product at Fantasy Points is constantly expanding, constantly growing. And I know for a fact that we have our own Scott Barrett hot on the heels of Dynasty, and it is driving production up. Let me tell you, it's going to be worth the wait. You're going to love it. Obviously, check out Jacob's Thinking About Thinking for all things Jacob and his insane intros that are longer than most books that I read. And we love him for that. With that being said, chat, you'll get there next time or sometime, maybe when I'm not here. But until that day and all days after, remember that there are people on the other side of your screens. We're humans in this game when you're talking all of that mad dookie. Just remember there are people on the other side. Remember to check in on your loved ones, even if you're not sure that they need it. Remember that clear eyes and full hearts can never lose, and that your best days, it's always spent drafting Bhayshul Tuten. We'll see you guys right back next week.
What?
Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.